I don't want to downplay it in any way, and actually I just want to share my experience to maybe help others out that are wanting to do this. And I've had nerve testing, muscle fiber testing, and as well as some scans. And I'll add those up here on the screen. My name's Olivia. I was born with a rare genetic condition. My suffering does not define me. With every battle I face, I am made stronger through faith. And free! Yeah! Hello, today's video is going to be basically a how-to. This type of how-to is going to look different for everyone based on your circumstances. So I'm just sharing how I am doing things, and this is a how-to on how to move to another state while under unique circumstances. I am tube fed, I am on home infusions, and I am on government assistance such as Medicaid, Social Security benefits for disability, and food stamps. So, because of this, my moving situation is going to be a little bit more difficult or just different than it might be for someone who is fully supporting themselves. First off, I want to put in a disclaimer. I believe that government assistance is temporary, that it is not a long-term solution, and it is meant to aid people who are in hard times, but that eventually you are supposed to be able to support yourself through steps that you have taken in order to do so. So that being said, the first thing that I did is obviously I looked for what is going to be something that I'm interested in, and something that is also practical financially. Will I be able to do it? Is this leading towards supporting myself in the end? I'm moving to the state of Maine, and the very first thing that I did was I began to look up apartments in that area, because I wanted to make sure that obviously first I was going to be able to afford a place to live. And there are very affordable apartments over there, mostly because there are several colleges in the area that I'm going to be moving to. So there are very small apartments, one-bedroom apartments, with a nice full-size bathroom. They're on the first floor. There are ones that are on the second floor, but obviously for my situation I would choose one on the first floor. After seeing that, yeah, that's affordable, I then began to see, or just mostly think about, all that I would have to do next. And of course, I was overwhelmed with anxiety thinking about having to switch doctors and all of that, because while on Medicaid, you cannot see doctors out of state unless you receive prior authorization, and that would not be including an entire team of doctors like I require. That was just something that I thought about. It's something I have already began discussing with my doctors, because at this point in time, it should be about 6 months away from my moving date. I don't have a set date yet. Obviously, once it gets closer, I will eventually find an apartment and put a deposit down and all of that and actually have a set date, but it'll be roughly about 6 months from when I'll be moving. And then, after thinking about that and discussing it with my doctors, I thought, okay, now what will I have to do in order to reapply for Medicaid, and then what will I do about medications and my feeding tube and my infusions until then. And this is when I realized my feeding pump and my infusion pump are rented out by my home health pharmacies. And that being said, I have to return them whenever I move. So the next thing for me was I began looking for a pump, a feeding pump, and an infusion pump. And I was very blessed to have someone just gift me a feeding pump. This one is my rented pump. I do have the actual one, and I will put in the footage of like all of the supplies that I have. I acquired all of the supplies just from maybe skipping an infusion on a day where I felt like, okay, I could probably skip this. Or skipping formula. Like in the summertime, I especially miss out on maybe several bottles of formula, and then I just order my supplies later than I would so that I don't accumulate supplies and run out of space in my room. That is changing to where I would just order it on the date that I normally would, and I save up those supplies for whatever I move. Thankfully, Kate Farms peptide formula is available on Amazon, so that is another option. And also, whenever I move, my food stamps are still going to be available. I will have to reapply in the new state that I'm moving to, but the money on my current food card will still be there even after I discontinue my benefits. I also have been saving up feed bags, maybe reusing one, rinsing it out, and also whenever I was gifted the feeding pump, I was gifted several feeding bags and other supplies such as syringes, an extra button, and things like that. I also have another button. The button that I was gifted is a Mickey, and I use AMT, so it's really just for emergencies. What else? Oh, okay, so infusion pumps are a lot more expensive, and they require regular maintenance in order to ensure that they are properly calibrated and just to make sure that they are working properly. And so when buying my own pump, my own infusion pump, it will be risky that it may break or that it may require maintenance or something like that. So there are options for like insurance that you can get on the pumps depending on where you order it from. If I order it brand new, it would cost thousands of dollars. There are lots of new, like used like new pumps available out there. So that's what I've been looking into, and there is insurance available for those as well. But after looking into those things, I have been looking around to see what their medical system looks like over there, and if I will even be able to receive the right kind of care. And thankfully, I was able to find all of the types of doctors that I will need, and obviously finding one that I prefer will be something that I won't even be able to know until I get there and I do start actually seeing these doctors. That being said, since I'm on SSI and I'm reapplying for Medicaid, I will likely get approved a lot faster. That just speeds up the process, and there hopefully won't be even a lapse in coverage. The next thing is I had to call my local social security office and ask them if moving was going to be an issue. And they said no, that would be totally fine. And then I even got more reassurance that I didn't even seek, and thankfully it was given. They said, oh yeah, if you move to a higher cost of living state, you actually get an increase in benefits. So that was very cool to find out, and to know that it was going to be a lot easier than I thought. I'm trying to think of what I did next. Oh, obviously when I went looking for apartments, I looked for ones that are pet friendly because I am taking my dog with me, so that is something that is definitely important. So I mentioned in my moving video or my big news video, I don't remember what I called the video. In that video, I talked about how I looked for a place where it was going to be a lot easier to carry. And while I have found a state that I do really like their laws and that are very constitutional, I am obviously traveling with my firearm to that new state, and I'll be on the road. I don't know if there'll be times where I drive home, probably not, but maybe there will be. In those situations, I would like to have my firearm with me, and especially if from when I need to stop somewhere and get some sleep, I would like to have it with me. And so I've been working on getting my carry permit in Indiana, because there are several states that do honor an Indiana carry permit. And there are many states that do not honor Indiana laws in another state, which makes a lot of sense. They have their own set of laws. And even states that say, okay, you can carry as long as you're a resident and you don't need a carry permit. So obviously if I'm stopping somewhere for a night, I'm not going to be a resident there, and I will need either a carry permit from my state or a carry permit from their state. If it's a state that requires me to have a carry permit from their state, obviously I won't be stopping there for the night. If it's a state where I would be required to be a resident, that is not a place I would be stopping. I would obviously stop at a place that honors Indiana carry permits. And once I move to Maine, I will likely get my carry permit for the state of Maine, because once I establish residency, fairly certain my Indiana carry permit would no longer be good, because I would no longer be an Indiana resident. I would be a Maine resident. That's what I will do about that. So I think that's basically it. That's as far as I've gotten. Obviously, I have added Maine to my student FAFSA form. I do not receive federal student aid as of right now, and that is because when I was previously in school, I had a really, really poor GPA, and I'm talking about back in like 2016, and that's because I was struggling with mental illness and I wasn't really focused on school. I was focused on the mental illness and then afterwards getting better from the mental illness. So now, since I've been in school, my GPA has been a 4.0 since being in school, but my cumulative is still going to always be impacted from my previous records from when I was previously in school. So I don't receive federal student aid. However, vocational rehabilitation does cover my school, all the expenses of tuition, books, and things like that. Assistive technology. Unfortunately, because I am going to go to an out-of-state school, which will eventually be considered an in-state school, I'll explain that a little bit more. I will have to reapply for vocational rehabilitation. Now, I've already called vocational rehabilitation in the state of Maine, and they said they're not 100% certain how that works with the out-of-state tuition and developing or establishing residency. But she said that she believes I don't have to establish residency for vocational rehabilitation, but she said she's not sure about federal student aid, or tuition, I guess. Federal student aid I should be eligible for once I transfer schools, just because I will already have a second college degree. So they told me that, yeah, I'll be eligible for federal student aid. So my GPA affects me to a certain extent, and then again, once I transfer, I'll be good. And then I've also, since I've added them to my FAFSA, I've already received an invite from the college, and so I'm super excited about that. I still have to apply for going into spring semester. I will need to apply by August. So once I apply in August and I get the federal student aid and potentially even merit scholarships, then I will also be reapplying for vocational rehabilitation once I get there, like I've mentioned. Since I'm going to be reapplying in a new state, I will also have to have my plan remade, because when you're in vocational rehabilitation, they make a plan for you. And this goes along with what I said, how government assistance is not permanent. It's meant to for temporary. When you get knocked off your feet, maybe something happened, or you're going through a temporary circumstance, then once you get back on your feet, you get off of the government assistance and you support yourself. And that is exactly what vocational rehabilitation is for. It's to help those with disabilities to get back on their feet. Because even those with disabilities that aren't suffering from like a terminal illness can get back on our feet, because there are tools out there that help with that. Once I get that plan remade, everything will be set. It is a little bit scary right now, and that's where faith comes in, and I've just been doing my best to trust God and know that this is His plan and that He has great things in store for me. So I'm excited and also still very nervous about everything. That's all I have for the steps that I've been taking. And next, I'm just going to provide an update on what's been going on in my life. I know that in my last video, I mentioned talking about thoracic outlet syndrome. Basically, there are 3 different types: vascular, arterial, and neurogenic. And I have neurogenic and arterial. And I've had nerve testing, muscle fiber testing, and artery testing, as well as, oof, there are gnats in my room, as well as some scans. And I'll add those up here on the screen so that y'all can see. Now, in these images, you may be able to see I have these abnormal bone growths coming out of my neck, my cervical spine. My bony abnormality is that I have cervical ribs growing out of my neck. Those I have to get removed, and that is likely what is causing the compression, as well as some fibery tissues that have grown in order to support those bone growths, and scalene muscles that are likely causing it to be worse. So I went in for a procedure that was supposed to only paralyze my scalene muscles, but I was unprepared whenever I got there, and they only did one side, and I didn't know why until I was experiencing the effects of this injection that they did. The injection actually ended up paralyzing half of my face and my entire arm. And it was really scary when it happened because, like I said, I wasn't prepared for that. And I kept asking the nurses if it was normal. I was having to talk out of one side of my mouth. I was scared because I couldn't move my arm or my fingers or anything like that. Thankfully, finally the doctor came over and he explained to me that yes, it is normal and that it should wear off within like several hours. And so they kept me there until I was safe enough to drive home. And it was a little bit scary driving home because my arm was still extremely heavy and it was very sluggish and very hard to move it. But with movement and time, it finally went away. The drive was about an hour long, so it was a little bit scary on the interstate. But finally I got home and it went away. And hopefully they got the results that they need for my next appointment with my surgeon. I missed my appointment because there was a problem with my Jeep on my way to my appointment, but I have another appointment coming up in about a week that I will be attending, and then I will find out more, hopefully have a surgery date, because I really want to get both sides done before I move. I don't want to have to go through searching for another surgeon. And if that delays me a semester and I have to do UMaine online, I may have to do that. But hopefully that's not the case because that would be a huge detour in plans. That's basically what I'm going through. There's something very emotional that I've been going through that I don't think I'm ready to share yet. You may notice that my eyes are red, and that's because I've been crying a lot. Eventually I will share it. I'm really not ready to share it today. I think that's about all I have to share with y'all. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that y'all continue to join me on this journey. And if you did enjoy this video, then hit that thumbs up button. If you enjoy my videos in general, and you plan on returning for more, then hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to receive notifications when I upload new videos, then hit that bell notification sign. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I love y'all. Bye.